In conclusion, in conclusion, in conclusion, what I think should happen about what I think should be done, and and what I think about this format, this 16 driver elimination style format, the playoffs and the NASCAR playoffs. It's not working. The playoffs are not working. I mean, no offense for the, but I do congratulate. I mean, now I do congratulate the drivers who won the championship because from this format. I congratulate Chase Elliott. I congratulate Ryan Blaney. I congratulate Kyle Busch. I mean, speaking of Kyle Busch, 2015, he had a Kyle Larson. Kyle Busch was gone half that season due to an injury that he sustained after a scary accident at Daytona. It was the Xfinity Series. It was the Xfinity Series version of the Daytona 500 in 2015. Kyle Busch going 190 miles an hour, ricocheted into the infield grass at Daytona, and bam, bam, his car head on hit the inside retaining wall at Daytona at high speed, and the speed up, and he was going 190 miles an hour. That hard collision between Kyle Busch and the infield. Let's say my hand is the infield wall of Daytona, and my fist is Kyle Busch's car. Kyle Busch was ricocheting of the trioval at Daytona, and he got clipped by another car, sending ricocheting full speed, and he slammed into the infield wall, and that wall had no safety barriers. Kyle Busch was all right, but he was injured, and he missed half of that season, and then he came back, and he needed just one. And NASCAR said that they would grant him a playoff waiver if he would win a race that season, and he did. He won at Sonoma. He won at Sonoma that season, and that granted him a playoff waiver. And thanks to this format, Kyle Busch was able to walk away with the championship after being gone for half the season. Yep. 2015 was actually a miracle for Kyle Busch. And didn't the rules say you have to attend, that every driver has to attend every single race all the 36 races they have to attend. They have to attend every single one of them. Kyle Busch missed half that season, and yet he still won the championship in 2015. That's telling you that this format. I mean, congratulations to him for winning another championship in 2019. Kyle Busch actually had a great season in 2019. And he actually deserved to win that championship in 2019. The NASCAR champions, non-playoffs. Jeff Gordon should have been the 7-time champion. Kevin Harvick should have been a 2-time champion. Kyle Busch, Carl Everett should be the Carl Everett should have been a 2-time champion. He definitely should have been the 2016 champion. William Byron, William Byron should have been the 2023 champion. If they gone by the regular season championship. The 2004 format, the 2004 format, and the 2005 format, I had no problems with because even though it was still playoffs, it didn't lack legitimacy. 26 then and then Brian France decided to mess with the playoff format starting in 2007. And Jeff Gordon had a great season that year too. 6 wins, 30 top tens. He had an amazing season that year in 2007. But yet Jimmy Johnson beat him for the championship because of the playoffs. 2004, Jeff Gordon could have won the championship that year. Dale Earnhardt Jr. could have won the 2013 championship. Matt Kenseth could have won the 2015 championship. Jeff Gordon could have been a 7-time champion. 2014 could have been his 7th championship. Tying his rival Dale Earnhardt Sr. He and Dale Earnhardt have been rivals ever since in the mid 1990s. Probably one of the most famous rivalries in NASCAR history. Dale Earnhardt versus Jeff Gordon, two of my all-time favorite drivers. Hadn't if the playoffs had not been introduced, Jeff Gordon would have finally tied his rival, Dale Earnhardt, in 7 championships. He would have tied Richard Petty. But nope, Jimmy Johnson did. Jimmy Johnson was the one who tied Dale in Richmond, winning 5 championships in a row from 2006 all the way to 2010. Winning the 2013 championship, and then taking home the 2016 championship. All because of the playoffs. It was the playoffs that brought Jimmy Johnson those titles. It was the playoffs that won Jimmy Johnson those 7 championships. Drivers getting screwed out of a flawed system. And then, did I mention that Brian France would change the playoff format again in 2012? 2012 implemented a wild card. A wild card is when you win. Is when all you need is a win and you're in the playoffs. And the playoffs also created chaos at Richmond in the same race that the Austin Dillon incident occurred, in the same track. The 2013 Chevy Rock and Roll 400 at Richmond. Clint Boyer intentionally spinning himself out with just a handful of laps to go to help his teammate make the playoffs, knocking Jeff Gordon out by 1 point. By 1 point, NASCAR's greatest driver was eliminated from the playoffs. But NASCAR didn't. But Brian France and NASCAR didn't like that, so they ousted Clint Boyer from the chase and added in Jeff Gordon. They announced it before the first playoff race at Chicagoland. And then it lasted all the way until what we have now. Born in 2014. The 16 driver, the 12 drivers was now expanded to 6. 12 drivers are now expanded to 16 drivers. And there's a win and you're in. Let's not let that sink in. A win and you're in the playoffs. Two winless drivers almost walked away with championships because of this format. because of a flawed system. It was this format alone that really screwed drivers out. But the driver that I really feel sorry for, the driver that I really feel sorry for. Or actually, there's two. Actually, there's two drivers. One is Kevin Harvick. 2020 was a dominate. 2020 he dominated that season. Kevin Harvick flat out dominated the 2020 season, despite COVID-19. NASCAR did make a comeback, and they did run all 36 races in the 2020 season during the pandemic. They had midweek races. Some tracks had 3 races. Some tracks had 3 races in that schedule, but they did get it done. Kevin Harvick was having a great season that year until that one race at Martinsville, when he was in a desperate situation. And it was not that race either. It was not that race that was the reason why. That's what cost him the championship. It was because the caution was not thrown after it was already raining at Texas. That in my opinion is what cost Kevin Harvick the title, and because of this format. And I really hate it. And the third reason why I hate this format is when they compare it to stick and ball sports. Motorsport, NASCAR is a motorsport. Playoffs work in other sports because of one-on-one events. NFL reason why they have a playoffs. NBA has a reason why they have a playoffs. The only way to advance in the playoffs in the NFL, in the NBA, is to win. But NASCAR, there are 40 competitors. You don't have to win. You don't have to win to get. You can spin. You just need to have a good finish. You just need to. You can wreck somebody by purpose or by accident. But motorsports do not need playoffs. They don't. NASCAR is a motorsport. Motorsports do not need playoffs. And that's fact. Drivers getting screwed. Intentionally wrecking people. Intentionally right hooking people. Getting flooded by penalties. All because of a flawed system. That's the reason why I cannot stand the NASCAR playoffs. And the playoffs have got to go. I agree with the iceberg. And I agree. I've watched the iceberg, and another NASCAR YouTuber, the iceberg, and he gave his opinion. He gave his opinion on the playoffs. Slap Shoes gave his opinion on the playoffs, and now I am giving my opinion on the playoffs. The playoffs have got to go, and I have no disrespect for the fans who like the playoffs and for the drivers who like the playoffs, but it's lacking legitimacy. It is really lacking legitimacy right now. And it is a huge problem that needs to be fixed. Motorsports do not need playoffs. And if you want to keep the playoff format, and if you want to keep the playoffs, go back to the 2004 format. I mean, yes, even though it was still the playoff, even though it was